In today's video, I cut out parts of the sprue. Next, I deepen the details for better effect. Then I combine superglue with some magic powder. I also cut out small circles for accuracy. And finally, I carefully apply water slide decals on my finger. Hello fellow modelers, I am excited to share my latest discovery, the remarkable Saunders-Roe SRA1, one of the most famous flying boat jet aircraft. Even it looks like someone tried to combine a Spitfire with a bathtub. Not familiar with it, neither was I until recently. I stumbled upon this kit at a local hobby store, and it was hard to pass up. If you are looking to step away from a typical models, this unconventional flying boat is definitely worth considering. While it is a short-run kit, the parts are quite clean and features some nice surface details. I'm only concerned about the fitting. The original Xtrakit came with a mask for clear parts and printed 3D decals for the cockpit, but my version is missing these extras, so on the bright side I got it at a nice discount. The cockpit is quite small and often goes unnoticeable, yet I have discovered some wonderful details photos that can help me enhance it. I plan to add wires and cables based on historical images to improve its accuracy. Since the rudder control pedals are not included in the kit, I am using styrene profiles to create them. For the wiring, I prefer lead wires because they are easy to shape. There is quite a jumble of exposed wires within the cockpit, so making at least some changes creates a significant difference. In addition, I am working on improving the Martin Baker Mk1 ejection seat. The Mk1 primarily consists of a few pipes, a rocket motor and parachute. While it may not be much, it's certainly better than nothing. The kit seat is overly simplified, but by adding some wires and styrene profiles, I can enhance it and incorporate more details. I really like using copper wires as well. They are relatively soft, yet much stronger than lead, making them ideal for creating straight lines or small curves. Plus, copper wires came in the finer diameters, which helps with added detail work. I am using 2-component epoxy putty for the seat backrest, which works wonderfully for sculpting details. To create the appearance of the seat belts, I am flattening lead wires with the hobby knife, giving it a nice smooth finish. Now that I am pleased with the level of the details, I can move forward. British designed and built 3 prototypes of the SRA1, but tragically 2 of them crashed, nearly taking the life of a legendary test pilot, Eric Brown. Remarkably, only one aircraft has survived, and it is now currently on the display at Solent Sky Museum in Britain. SRA1 is the first and last of its kind, because sometimes even one try is too much. Basically, someone needs to show the wrong way in the aircraft design. For painting, I prefer using Vallejo, Citadel or Revel Aqua acrylic paints. They are odorless and dry quickly, making them ideal for my projects. Since I don't have extra details for the instrument panel, I am utilizing this lovely set of decals that features separate instruments. Finally, I find that the soft shading with the enamel wash adds a great depth and highlights the finer details beautifully. The cockpit is complete, so let's move on to the fuselage next. It's time to check the fit. Okay, it is not perfect, there is a 1mm gap. I will need to thin down the plastic slightly and reshape it to get a better fit. This is an improvement. I'm going back to basics with this kit. It involves plenty of filling, cutting and adjustments. But it is the best kit on the market, so I don't have another alternative. The SRA1 was a fighter aircraft developed in 1947, equipped with 4 20mm cannons in the nose. The kit comes with marked holes for the guns, but unfortunately they are not too deep. There should be holes for the gun barrels. The air intake has a noticeable ejectant pin marks, which can be tricky. Thankfully I have a micro grinder with a carbide milling cutter, that makes the process much easier. I prefer using superglue because it speeds up the process and creates a more stable bond. There is also a noticeable seam line in the air intake, which needs attention. I find it useful to fill it with a body or flexible superglue. As I have come to expect, the fitting isn't flawless. The black flexible superglue is great for filling, because you can see residual putty on the surface and filled seam lines. Also, it's softer than ordinary superglue, making it easier to sand. I attempt to attach the engine's exhaust, but unfortunately it does not fit again. I am carefully removing plastic, because deep cuts can lead to unnecessary filling afterward. Since this is such famous aircraft, I took an initiative and designed additional parts in 3D and print them. The sets include new engine components and air intake mesh. The files are available on my Patreon on Cal3D. It's quite useful to reinforce the seam line with a superglue from the inside, since the parts lack connection pins. They could easily move or fall into the fuselage. While trying to assemble the fuselage, I ran into the issue because the air intake rib prevents it from closing. Therefore, I am removing plastic here and there to solve this problem. The engine parts are positioned right after the first rib, which is incorrect, as the cross-section blueprint indicates they should be located behind the cockpit. Therefore, I have created extended tubes to ensure proper installation. Since there are no guide pins for wing installation, I adjusted their position based on pan lines. Superglue works well for filling gaps, but you will need to apply several layers to fill larger spaces. I recently had a workshop on 3D printing, where a fellow modeler recommended me using the CA glue filler. Mixing it with a powder achieves a denser consistency. Though the drying time is slower, it allows you more time for application, about 10 minutes. For thick layers, the drying time extends to an hour. The final consistency is fantastic for sanding, and the bond is both strong and stable, preventing sigmars from forming over the time. Baking soda can be used as a filler as well, but it comes with some challenges. The reaction can be extremely exothermic, and its strength makes it less suitable for rescribing or riveting. I have saved myself a lot of hassle with filling, as you can see from all the shape corrections I had to make. I use spare cockpit canopy as a spray mask. This primer helps to unify the model in single shade, while also highlighting imperfections. I examine photos of the preserved machine and blueprints and notice that the pan lines are inaccurate. The green lines indicate the new areas, while the red ones need to be filled in. Although I own some pricey Tamiya scanning tools, I actually prefer using simple ordinary razor saw. The masking tape serves as a guide, ensuring a straight cut every time. Honestly, I don't even think about making cuts without it. For curved shapes, flexible contour masking tape works wonderfully, but you can also opt for electrical insulation tape if that is what you have on hand. For small repairs, I stick with a Tamiya basic putty, which sands down beautifully thanks to its excellent consistency. The primer revealed that the front section is too round, however, the present aircraft is flatter. The kit includes metal parts for the air intake mesh, but they are too flat and monolithic for my taste. As a result, I designed a replacement part and printed it out. Now, when you compare the before and after of the filling process, it almost looks like a completely different aircraft. I have applied another layer of a primer, which beautifully unifies the surface and conceals all the repairs. There are some missing panel lines on the wings, but nothing too concerning. I stumbled upon the riveting blueprint, and I was pleasantly surprised to find it exists. While it is not completely accurate, it serves as an excellent reference. I have created the lines based on detailed photos from the museum, and I'm using 0.7mm toothpick. I recently got new riveting tools made by Be Easy. They are comparable in quality to old Rosy riveter tools, which are no longer available. I start by drawing the lines with a soft pencil, as arranging them correctly can be challenging, especially on the curved surface. For double riveting lines, the double riveting wheel works great, though it's a bit pricey, but it will last for a lifetime in modeling. I use transparent masking tape as a guide for making straight lines. It may take some time and effort to create riveting across the entire model, but the transformation in appearance is significant. A few final touches remains. I am thinning down the float covers using a micro grinder. Pitot tubes are long and fragile, so I've made new ones from sturdy hypodermic needles. If you buy different diameters, you can put them together. It is also easier when trying to clean the plastic ones. As for the other details, I noticed a small towing eye under the air intake, along with the position lines on the fuselage. I chose to use epoxy putty, since I forgot to design the spars in 3D. There are also missing position lights on the wings. I carefully cut the tips with a razor saw and shape them using a clear UV resin. It is useful to smooth out the shape with a fine sandpaper, once the resin is fully cured. The actual machine was painted in the grey-silver hue. So to replicate this color, I blend Mr. Color Ace Silver and GX1 Gloss White. Next, I added a touch of a darker silver paint to create a subtle shading and enhance the details and contours of the aircraft. The decals are printed by TechMod, which means that they are beautifully thin and rich in color. I positioned them according to their instruction manual, however, the real aircraft had the roundlets placed close together, so I adjusted their location before applying the decals chemicals. I used setting solution when softer the clear film, allowing the decals to adhere smoothly to the surface. Since the kit lacked certain labels, I supplement them with spare decals from the Airfix Meteor model. I placed the decals directly on the gloss silver paint, making this varnish layer the first coat of the varnish which I applied. I attempt to place the canopy in the open position, but the plastic was too thick for the proper fit. Therefore I carefully removed a bit of material to ensure everything aligns correctly. The final step was to weather the model using oil paints in shade of grey, burnt umber and black. I opt for a subtle approach to weathering, since this particular machine was a prototype and remained fairly clean throughout its existence. I am using oil paint thin with an enamel thinner and applying it with a synthetic brush. The area around the engine can afford to look a bit dirtier due to oil leaks. It's refreshing to work on the model that looks neat and tidy. The resilient lacquer gloss means that the oil paint doesn't adhere firmly, which is plus. Any mistake can be easily wiped away with the thinner. Ladies and gentlemen, here stands the Saunders-Roe SRA1. The aircraft that decided to be just an aircraft was boring. The result? The only 3 prototypes that flew, swam and mostly importantly confused all the engineers. Building this model in 72 scale was a ride, from battling for small parts, fitting, scribing and riveting in any case. It has become one of the most intriguing models in my collection. Whether you admire this plane for its courage to be different or wonder why it was even created. I hope you enjoyed this British water freak as much as I did. Thank you for watching, and if you have any questions, ask them quickly before this kit sails into retirement. And heartfelt thanks to my Patreons for their support. See you next time!